to read a book that's going to send your blood pressure racing or where bad things are looming and there's a sense of tension, like that should not relax me. But it does.
I'm Gilbert Cruz, and this is The Book Review. If you listen to the show even just once in a while, you've probably heard me refer to the best books of the 21st Century Project. 2 years ago, we got 500 or so authors and other folks in the literary community to submit their choices for the best books published since the year 2000. We counted those up and we published a list of 100 titles. It is an incredible collection of books, great resource if you're looking for something fantastic to read. But the thing we quickly realized is that 100 books is actually not that many. And so many of the genres that we love at the Book Review were kind of underrepresented. So given that it's summertime and given that reading a great thriller in the heat is one of the season's supreme pleasures for bookish people, we decided to do it again, sort of. We reached out to hundreds of the best thriller writers around, asked them to tell us what the best thrillers of the past 25 years or so this century were, counted up all those votes, and we've now published a list of the 50 best thrillers of the 21st century. And today, we're going to talk about some of those books that made that list with two of the book reviews, thriller experts. Few people can best them in this genre. Tina Jordan is the editor of the Book Review. Tina, welcome back.
Thanks.
And the great Sarah Lyle is here. Sarah has long written our monthly mystery and thriller column. Sarah, hello.
Hello.
You're both stone cold thriller experts, as I said. Tina, should I even take a guess as to how many books you've read on this list? Is it like 49 of the 50?
No, it's not 49.
Okay.
But it's 40-something. I counted. It's 42.
Okay. I was close.
You were close.
I had the feeling that you, who are a very fast reader and who love to read in the genre, probably had hit up most of the titles here. And Sarah...
So I'd say not stone cold, but maybe slightly chilled for me. I will say I've read maybe 30 to 35, so it's not like I'm a total neophyte in some of these early books.
I would never make such an accusation. So we're going to talk about some of these titles, and given that these are thrillers of all stripes, there are a lot of twists. We're not going to ruin any books on this list. So if anyone, Sarah, Tina, me, start talking too close to the end of a book or start revealing plot that people should not know, it is the responsibility of everyone in this conversation to say, no, stop. Okay?
We were just talking about we have a little seemingly an eject button near our microphones here. Maybe that's what that's for.
I'm not going to eject you because then we have to reload you in the podcast seat, and that takes a while. But just put out your hand and say, no, don't talk about it. Okay. We are going to talk about the titles and the rankings in a few minutes, but I wanted to start big picture. This is a list of the best thrillers of the 21st century. And Tina, you and I particularly, when we started thinking about this idea, we wanted to have as broad a definition of the word thriller as possible. I think when people hear that word, they think crime, they think serial killer maybe. But as we learned, and maybe as we knew to begin with, there are a lot of books that can be classified as a thriller. How big is that definition?
It's a huge, huge umbrella. I mean, there's spy fiction, police procedurals, private detective novels, cozy mysteries, action thrillers, science fiction thrillers. The list goes on and on.
Why do you think that the word thriller, at least initially, is so restrictive to some people? They really think about it as like, this is a dark crime story.
Because I think that's the tradition of thrillers, right? I mean, now, we have a serial killer thriller on the list that's actually laugh out loud funny. You didn't have that 20 years ago.
Sarah, you've been writing about thrillers for the New York Times for quite a while. Have you seen your responsibility as being one of representing the broadness of this genre? There are legal thrillers. There are all these different types.
I really try to, but as you say, it is very broad, and it ends up that part of what I end up covering is to my own taste. So I will try to put in a couple of serial killer thrillers in my column, but they're not my favorite kind. I'm with Tina in that it's so broad that almost any book can actually be a thriller. And I think, the best books are sort of thrillers in themselves, even though there might not be a crime or a mystery. Like, it's still a mystery when you read an amazing novel, like what will happen to the characters? Will he leave his wife? Will their secret be revealed? And so it is such a wonderfully broad category that I love thinking I have a sort of big church for my column.
So John Updike once famously said, at some level, every novel wants to be a thriller. And what he meant was people reading thrillers, like, you want to turn the page. You want to find out what happens.
Yeah.
And that sort of ties into what you just said, Sarah, like anything can be a thriller.
Yeah, and I think the really best thrillers, the ones that are well-written, you're fighting with, like, this is so wonderful and dense, and the writing is so good, and the characters are so interesting, but, oh my God, I want to find out what happens, and you're racing through, but you're like, stop, it's so good, and then you just go back and read the whole thing again.
Right.
That's what's always been part of the appeal for me. I read a couple thrillers a year, certainly one every summer. It's just like, I want something where the author is just pulling me through, and I feel that I actually cannot put this book down. There's a cliche in book reviewing, this novel is unput-downable.
Right.
It's not even a word, right? But ideally, a thriller actually is like, I want to read this all in one gulp because I want to know who did it, what happened to the person, what is the twist, how is this all going to work out?
They're totally plot-driven.
And ideally, as we'll see with some of the titles on this list, when you match a great plot with great writing, that is what makes something truly magical. I like when I am pulled through a book. Tina, what is it about a thriller that appeals to you? Why have you read so many books in this genre other than you yourself being slightly disturbed?
I don't know, because it's not logical, right? That to read a book that's going to send your blood pressure racing or where bad things are looming and there's a sense of tension, like that should not relax me, but it does.
Tina, do you ever get that thing that I sometimes get now as I get older, which is I get anxious for the characters?
Yes.
And then do you ever try to have to stop yourself from finding out, like, if they're still alive at the end, like you leaf forward to just make sure all the characters are still there? I have to physically stop myself from doing that sometimes.
I agree.
Yeah, I start to really care about the character sometimes, and I'm like, just please don't die.
You would never jump to the end, though, right? There's that cliche of people picking up a book and going to the end just to see what happens and then starting from the beginning.
I've once or twice done, not for stuff that I've reviewed, but just to make so I can, like, sleep at night. Like, if I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just so worried about the person.
So when did you start, Tina? When do you remember getting that first delicious taste of the genre?
Gateway drug was 6th grade. My teacher, Mrs. McBee, read aloud to the class the Agatha Christie mystery Cat Among the Pigeons. I don't know if you've read this one,
Sarah.
I sure
have, because it's perfect for a girls' school. Or
it's set at a girls' school.
Yeah.
And, people think of Agatha Christie novels as being, sweet. Like, people die in this book. They die in
tons of people.
Yeah, they get coshed on the head with sandbag. I ate it up. And then I said to my mom, can you take me to the library? And I just started checking out all the Agatha Christies, which I must tell you, I learned a lot about poison.
Yeah.
A lot of people die by poison.
Arsenic is a good method.
Yeah. That's why I never accepted drink from you. Sarah, what about you?
So Agatha Christie came to me too, and I'd read a bunch of them before my mom informed me that her name wasn't pronounced Agatha. but I read all the kids' ones too. I read all the Nancy Drews, Encyclopedia Brown. Oh my God. And then, I spent a lot of my time as a kid in sort of houses where there were no adults around, but a lot of adult books lying around. So other things were like Rebecca, amazing thriller, The Turn of the Screw. And, you read those not knowing what genre they are, but oh my God, they're thrillers.
I remember maybe 13 or so picking up an early John Grisham. Might have been around the time that the movie version of The Firm came out. So 1994, something like that.
You're so young.
I should not have said that. I've revealed my age. And just being like, I want to read all this guy's books. So, The Firm, I think at the time it probably was The Firm, went back to A Time to Kill. Then I head to The Client, and then I picked up
Pelican
several
Brief.
of his other... Pelican Brief.
Right.
Oh, I really love that book. It made me want to be a lawyer. It never came to pass. But yeah, to me, that was an early version of my obsession with a thriller. It's just like, I think the law is where thrills happen.
No, those John Grishams are great.
Yeah. And then I picked up...
Presumed Innocent.
I've...
Okay, Gilbert, leave this podcast right now and go and read it. What's wrong with you? That is
Sarah,
the best book
on this
of all time.
podcast, maybe 4 years ago, you told me to read Presumed Innocent, and I still haven't. So I've disappointed you. But then there was a period where I moved to Agatha Christie myself. I picked up, and then there were none, which is still... Holy cow, just one of the,
so good.
It is
the
really
most
good.
tightly plotted and creepy books I've ever read. Murder on the Orient Express and some of the more obvious Agatha Christie books. That stuff, if it hits you at the right age, and clearly it hit all three of us at the right age, like it could be like a drug you want to chase.
Tina, do you have a favorite Agatha Christie?
Oh, that's too hard. Peril at End House, maybe?
So good.
Yeah, how about you?
There's so many great ones. I mean, I think probably And Then There Were None is the best one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one called Crooked House
Oh.
that is so creepy and weird. And it fits into one of the subgenres that we're going to be talking about later, but I'm not going to give it away. It's just a fantastic book.
So, Sarah, as you indicated, there are so many different types of subgenres underneath the genre of thriller. I love a legal thriller. Some people love spy thrillers. Is there a type of thriller that you think more people should read or more people should know about?
I think everyone knows about most of the types of thrillers. I personally like psychological thrillers better than probably blood-spattered, we all mutilated the corpses type thrillers, which don't... And, I like a lot of power struggles within, families where people are lying and betraying each other and gaslighting each other. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I love science fiction thrillers, not the ones that are like the high-tech sort of overdone computery stuff, although we're getting a lot of good AI thrillers right now. I love a time travel thriller because how it plays with reality and what you can change. And so I would always point people back to the great Time and Again by Jack Finney, which has the benefit also of being set in old New York. Absolutely wonderful book.
I have that book on my shelf, and I've had it there for many years. So I need to figure out, am I reading Presumed Innocent first, or am I reading Time and Again first?
It'll take you you'll read one, stay up all night, have 5 hours of sleep, read the other one, and it'll be the best experience. Lucky you.
Wow.
To
what
get to do
What a
those
double
things.
feature. Tina?
I'm with Sarah. Psychological thrillers really are my thing, although I also love big, expansive police procedurals along the lines of Tana French or Ruth Rendell, where the author is focusing this wide-angle lens on a big story, a family, a piece of history.
Tina, do you think, after having read as many police procedurals as you have, that you could just walk into a case and...
100% yes.
Yeah?
100%, no question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
You could have been a
called-
cop in another life?
I could have been a cop in another life.
Well, anyone who works at the book review is aware of that.
Well, so my husband was a detective on a murder squad, and I used to annoy him intensely.
Are you kidding me? I
No.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
And can I ask you, did you choose him as your husband in part because you were so into the fact that he was a murder detective?
Well, that helped for sure.
Wow, I'm really learning a lot about Tina here. Before we talk about individual titles, Tina, I want to talk about how we did this. You worked on our massive 100 Best Books of the 21st Century list. You've worked on this one. How do you think that people who read this on our site should think about it?
I think they should understand how broad the respondents we went out to are, right? Like famous thriller writers, sure, but like we went to almost every mystery bookseller in the United States. We went to bookstagrammers. It's a really wide net. I just feel like we worked so hard on that.
Yeah.
And dang, it was hard to get all those email addresses.
One of the great things about this and about our previous project was the fact that many authors allow us to publish their ballots. So we ask authors to pick what they considered to be the 10 best thrillers of the 21st century. We did not define best for them. We said, this is a very personal choice. You choose what best means. Looking at these ballots, Tina or Sarah, was there anything that surprised you about the types of books that people put on their list? What was surprising?
Well, one thing that surprised me was that we saw so many books from 2000, 2001, 2002. I was virtually certain going in that this was going to be about more recent books. Mm-hmm. People would have forgotten the old titles. I was completely wrong about that. And the other thing that surprised me was almost every single person voted for Gone Girl.
Yeah.
I was surprised too. What is that about? I mean, it's a great book. Is it universally the best book in this genre? I mean, do you think it is?
Well, the New York Times is saying that it is.
but take a look at the ballots. It's just like Gone Girl, Gone Girl. It's like one after another.
Yeah. So let's get into this list. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the number one book on this list, why we think it ended up on top, and some other sort of trends we noticed from the people who voted on this. We'll be right back. Tina, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. That's the number one book on this list. Number one by a darn mile. Seemingly everyone voted for it. I want to know why.
I think it's on top because although we all know what an unreliable narrator is and we hear all about it now, this is the text. This is the original great one. It's not just one unreliable narrator. It's two, a husband and a wife. And it's three if you really count the wife's diaries. Mm-hmm. And she's a beautiful writer and you're just turning the pages, but your mind is spinning because you really don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
I think this book was absolutely marvelous, but to my mind, some of the mystery was solved too early. Mm-hmm. The whole first half is just extraordinary because we really are lost in this sea of misinformation. Mm-hmm. And then we actually learn a lot about what we did not know, I think, too early. Mm. It doesn't mean it's not an absolutely spectacular book, but I felt less filled with suspense in that second half than the first half, actually. Yeah. I was going to say, when Tina talks about unreliability, there's such a great moment in the beginning of that book where one of the narrators, Nick, the husband, whose wife has just gone missing, Gone Girl, has reported it to the police, and they've come to have their first conversation with him. And you're there, and you're like, this is a straight-up story. He's describing the strangeness of what happened and speaking very candidly to the police, but narrating it to us. And at the end of that chapter, he says, it was the fifth lie I told to the police. And then something and it was just the beginning. And you're like, holy shit. And you're like, what? Which ones were the lies? And that's when you start realizing I'm not reading real truth here at all. It's so cool.
She does such a great job with this. She also does a great job with family dynamics in another book that she has on her list, which is called Sharp Objects. And, Gillian Flynn has 2 books on the list, and there are several authors who have multiple books on this list, which maybe is not that surprising because thriller writers do write a lot, whether they're writing a series or they're writing a collection of one-offs. But in addition to Gillian Flynn, Tana French, Dennis Lehane, S.A. Cosby. I'd love to talk about some of these people. And the first person I'm going to start with, I know you are both obsessed with. Many people are obsessed with this person. Sarah, I believe you actually interviewed this person on the Book Review podcast several years ago. That is Tana French.
It is Tana French. And I first met Tana French years ago when I was a London correspondent because I interviewed her about one of her earlier books. I think it was The Likeness. I can't remember. And so I feel, obviously I didn't discover Tana French for American audiences, but I was so gratified to see that this Irish writer featured so prominently on this list because most of the list are American writers. Mm-hmm. And her books have really broken through. And I sort of proselytize for these books as much as I shout at you about Presumed Innocent.
I got it. I hear you.
And so I was really happy. I mean, what people love about these books is that they're really high literature as well as mysteries. Some of them are police procedurals. Some of them are not. The last three are not, but they're pretty fantastic as well. And she has a sort of panoptical way of looking inside every character, making you understand their motivations, even if they're the villain. And sentence by sentence, she's just such a beautiful writer. And I care so much about these characters. And there's probably at least one time in most of the books where I cry just a little bit. And she's really good at like psycho killers. I mean, I don't mean like psycho massive killers, but I mean weird killers with really weird psychology.
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking of the same little old lady who's like a black spider, right?
She's unbelievable.
Right.
The little old lady comes in the third of this last series that French has just finished. And apparently she's not writing anymore. I want to see a book about that lady. Like, I feel like she needs to come back and she needs to face justice. And I'm not sure she ever is going to.
So the three books of French's that are on this list are In the Woods, which came in at number 3, The Likeness, which came in at number 34, and Broken Harbor, which came in at number 20. She has written many books in a series known as the Dublin Murder Squad series. She's just published this year the third in a trilogy of books set around a former Chicago policeman who now lives in rural Ireland. Tina, you've been beating the Tana French drum for as long as we have worked together.
I really have. There's just one that stands so far above the rest for me.
Mm-hmm. Which one is that?
And that's Broken Harbor. Broken Harbor takes place mostly in a ruined upscale housing development that's gone bust. They haven't finished most of the houses. A few of them are occupied. At one of the houses, there's been a terrible murder. But what makes this book so great is it's about one man's descent into madness. And bit by tiny bit. Do you remember, Sarah? Like, he starts out by thinking he hears a mouse.
And then it's a different kind of animal.
Right.
And it's like, what kind of animal is it in the walls of the house?
He's punching holes in the walls of the, and it escalates, but it escalates so slowly. Like, you're almost not paying attention until all of a sudden you're like, wait, he's going to buy a bear trap or whatever it is.
No, but it's even more than that. So it was written in the aftermath of the financial crisis of 2008, which really hit Ireland hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so the housing development it's set in is one of many such projects that were started with all this fake money that they were throwing around that then that just went bust in the middle. So it was a State of the Nation novel as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happened to that guy who, in my memory, lost his job.
He lost his job.
And so he was a bit of a metaphor or stand-in for everything that was going on in Ireland. Actually, I remember that's when I met Tana French for the first time, because I thought that novel was so extraordinary because it was just such a great, great story, and yet it said so much about the society. It was way more than the sum of its parts, actually.
Right. That's what I meant when I said like a wide-angle lens kind of story.
Yes.
She does that. Dennis Lehane does that. But also, and this is really unusual in the thriller, even in the police procedural world, these are character-driven. They are not plot-driven.
Mm-hmm.
So throw everything out the window that we said about like Page Turner's Propelled by Plot, because that's not what these books are.
Right, but in addition to being character-driven, whether we're talking about Tana French or we're talking about the author you just referenced, Dennis Lehane, they're also place-driven. A lot of what gives the specificity and the atmosphere to these books is the fact that they're so grounded in a place and the people that live there and the traditions and the accents and the pubs and the bars and all of that stuff.
Right. They're basically characters in the books.
Yeah.
And I think the best thrillers have that.
How is that sort of made clear in the work of Dennis Lehane, for example, which I know you've read a bunch of?
I mean, Dennis Lehane, the working class Irish neighborhoods of Boston, that's where he sets his historical novels. And you are always learning about a crime. I mean, in the case of Mystic River, it's about 3 friends who went through a traumatic event when they were children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's following them in this neighborhood through the decades. And so, yes, it's about crime and the aftermath of crime, but it's also about this place that they're tied to.
Right.
It's about redemption. It's about family. It's about friend. Like, it's just, they are such big books.
Yeah. And that Mystic River, Dennis Lehane's novel, came in at number 2.
Number 2.
Another sort of preponderance of people who took our poll thought that was just a tremendous work. Another author I mentioned who has several books on the list is S.A. Cosby. And again, there we see someone whose fiction is so firmly set in a specific place. In his case, it is the rural South, rural Virginia, which is where the author lives and where he grew up. And it is not necessarily a place we see written about a ton in thrillers. It has been described as Southern rural noir, grounded in the experiences of Black people down there, which again is something we don't see that much in thrillers.
It's something we don't see that much in thrillers. It's something, the South he presents. In his South, the past is very much alive.
Absolutely.
And that is a key part of what makes these books so great, because you see what baggage all the characters come with.
Yeah, I imagine as a Black person living in the South, there's no way to escape the past. I remember reading in the profile that our critic Dwight Garner wrote of S.A. Cosby, the fact that he went to a high school that was named after both Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis or something, just like that. Past is omnipresent there. If you're a criminal in his books, or if you are the first Black sheriff in a particular county, as is the case in All the Sinners Bleed, it's just a legacy that you cannot escape. And race and class, these books are soaked through with both of those.
They're pretty dark, these books.
They're very dark,
They're
very violent.
Dark, very violent. I read an interview, not the one with Dwight, somewhere else, where the interviewer was like, hey, what gives? Like, why are these books so dark? And he said, look, the world is dark. I'm writing what I see.
Mm-hmm. So, Tina, you've read 40-something books. Sarah, you've read 30-something books on this list. Are there themes, like recurring themes or character types or plot patterns that you can sort of discern?
In our list?
Yeah.
I do see the evil child trope here in several books.
Okay.
Love and evil child.
Love and evil child. Defending Jacob. We need to talk about Kevin and the push.
Uh-huh.
So there's 3. And by evil child, I mean, the parents have this kid. Maybe a lot of other kids are getting hurt around this kid. Then maybe something worse happens.
It's like the Macaulay Culkin movie, The Good Son. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
Okay. Well, then that reference means nothing. We can cut it.
Right. But I don't really know what the appeal of evil child novels is, but I love them. Sarah, do you love them?
I think it's the idea of it's like the sort of devil, is there something inherently evil in someone? I think we need to talk about Kevin did a really good job with that, with the sort of nature versus nurture. It had a mother who admitted she never really liked her son, and then he turns out to be a mass murderer. And so maybe she was right not to like him, but was her behavior toward him, did it contribute to how he behaved? And that's one of the really great tensions in that very disturbing book.
Sarah, something that I know is a trend that you have called out recurs in one of the more recent books on this list, which is God of the Woods by Liz Moore. It does feel like the thriller of the past few years. It's just broken out. And it is this idea that you have talked about of going back to your home or going back to your childhood in some way and having to relive or revisit or untangle something that happened to you a long time ago.
In some ways, it's a sort of easy plot device to use because it enables you to have multiple mysteries in one book. And it's, and a lot of people, it's like the podcaster used to live in the town and now is called back to do a podcast on a new murder. But, it turns out there was a murder in that person's past too, but they don't want to talk about it. There's a lot of variations on that. And when done well, it's absolutely exquisite. Mm-hmm. But it's a bit overdone, I think. I think people should work harder to do a good job with it.
Well, one of the other titles that falls into that trope is another Gillian Flynn book, Sharp Objects.
Oh, my God. Well, that's like one of the best.
Yeah.
And I was, thinking about this list because Sharp Objects, to me, it's sharper, it's weirder, it's scarier, it's creepier. And in some ways, even though Gone Girl is unconventional. This is even more unconventional, I think. And talk about setting. I mean, you're steeped into this Gothic, weird, Southern small town with, people trying to keep up appearances but murdering people in order to do it, several crazy people. And this poor young woman who hated living there so much that she has cut onto her own skin a lot of mean words about herself that I believe her mother used to describe her. And so she's all scarred. And she works as a reporter, and she's sent to go back to covering new murder that just brings back everything. It is such a creepy book, and it has one of the most chilling endings of anything on the list.
Totally.
It's really good.
It's really good.
And there is an adaptation of Sharp Objects starring Amy Adams,
Patricia Clarkson
as the mother.
It's so good, right?
And there is, you come to this dark end and you learn what happened. And then, if I'm recalling correctly, and it may not be, but the credits of the show roll, and you see the character who's responsible for all the mayhem doing some of the crimes that they did not show and it actually gave me nightmares. I dreamt about this show because of these credits. It's just so well done. And, Gone Girl made into a well-known David Fincher movie starring Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. There's so many titles on our list that have been adapted into movies or into TV shows and miniseries, some of them quite good. And I'm wondering, what is it about this genre in particular that makes it so ripe for screen adaptation?
They're plot-driven, right? The narrative tension is baked into them. Mm-hmm. And the same way you want to read a book where you're just flipping through the pages, that's the kind of movie you want to go see, right? Mm-hmm. The movie versions of some of these books, I think, would have been as hard to make as writing the book itself. Mm-hmm. And I am thinking of Gone Girl here.
Yeah. I totally agree. It really did justice to it. I find it hard sometimes if you love a book and you're so excited about the adaptation, it just doesn't live up to what you had hoped. And I think you had mentioned before with Gone Girl, it slightly flattens out, in my mind, the adaptation, the subtlety of the book, because it's harder to do unreliability on screen, right?
How do you do that? How do you look at something on screen and know that it's unreliable? Like it's hard.
It's much harder. It's much harder. And so some of those, I feel bad for the book, because if you'd seen the movie of Gone Girl, you might not bother to read the book. And the book, in my mind, is better than the movie. I'm not even sure I would have cast Ben Affleck either. He didn't strike me as that guy. But
who would you have cast?
I don't know. I always want Ryan Gosling to be in everything. I don't know.
Hey, you and me both. He's great. He's great. It is fascinating to see, some of the great directors take on some of these titles, right? Gone Girl, David Fincher, who also took on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the Stieg Larsson book, which came in at number 4. Clint Eastwood directed the movie adaptation of Mystic River.
And that was an extraordinary movie.
Nominated for Best Picture. No Country for Old Men, which the Coen brothers directed, the Cormac McCarthy novel, which came in at number 5. Won Best Picture. Slow Horses is a TV series that is critically acclaimed. Shutter Island was directed by Martin Scorsese. The Constant Gardener was made into an amazing movie. There is a way in which you can take this thing that is so plot-driven and really make it sing on the screen and sort of add a level of prestige to it.
Well, if the director and the screenwriter really understand the book, and they want to do justice to what the book is rather than what they want, you know what I mean? That's what's really great. And I think all those directors that you mentioned really got into why the book is so good and the sort of complications of the book that they didn't want to gloss over. They wanted to put in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But Sarah, who doesn't have great movies made from their books? Yes, Tana Fred.
It's so sad.
Is there even a TV series?
There was a TV series about it was not.
Well, it was a TV series where it tried to have a few of the books sort of rolled into one continuing series, which A, was a stupid idea. B, I thought everybody was miscast. And it was so sad. I wanted it to like it so much. And the same actually with the adaptation of the Kate Atkinson book that's on our list, case histories, which is such a fantastic book. And Jason Isaacs, who's a great actor, plays the main detective in that, who's wonderful. But it just couldn't do justice. I thought it was a series rather than a film. And it sort of meandered. It just wasn't as good as I would have liked, frankly.
As you both look back on this list, 25 or so years of thrillers, Tina, you talked about the fact that there are more books from the early part of the century than you would have expected. But I'm curious, are there things that used to show up in thrillers all the time that maybe today's audiences a couple of decades later wouldn't go along with?
I have several thoughts about this. One is that the advent of cell phones completely changed thrillers.
I mean, it ruins everything. It ruins movies.
Everything.
It ruins everything.
But, I mean, let's go back to even further, say, to a favorite book like Secret History, which I think we've all read. Gilbert, tell me you've read that book.
Yes, okay. I've read it several times.
Okay, fine. Can you imagine
that? He's getting a little defensive there. Are you?
I'm not. Just because my shoulders are hunching up does not mean I'm getting defensive.
But that book couldn't work now. Like what? The friends are all going to take a little trip and put their phones in the same place and then go, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, it really changes the nature of detection, right? Because they can always figure out where you were unless, and so a lot of books now to try to get over that hump, spend a lot of time saying, he took out his SIM card, he threw his phone away.
There was no cell service.
There's no cell service.
That's a big one.
But burner phone, that's a big thing. But it's so annoying. It takes so long to deal with that stuff.
I know. But the other thing is, readers are more sophisticated than they were 25 years ago. Everyone has watched a lot of true crime. Everyone's an expert in everything. And suspending your disbelief is harder now. Writers have to get it right. I think
especially with Tina, because she's really knows exactly what's going on with that investigation.
I just think in thrillers decades ago, writers had a certain amount of leeway, let's say, to get away with things, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I mean, in an era where you can just Google a solution. And
also people can Google stuff about when they refer to historical events or describe something or talk about police procedure. You can Google and see if it's true. And if you realize the author hasn't done their work, they're sloppy about, the patient-doctor relationship, for example, that starts to, chip away at your... And I would say, I think one of the great things about this list is almost everything really stands up as a real novel, as a piece of literature. Really fantastic books. There's a couple on here that I liked a lot when I read them, partly because they were surprising plots and sort of a new way of looking at something, and now I think are total schlock. And I'm not going to say what they are. Schlocky to me. How about that?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, Sarah, because we're talking about a genre, the fact that there weren't a ton of thrillers on our mega 100 list of the best books of the 21st century. I agree. I think there's a way in which, whether you're talking about thrillers or fantasy or other genres, they're still not considered literature, literary fiction in the same way. I think the three of us all agree that there are many books on this list that have a high level of literary writing, character development, thematic resonance, and that the two are not mutually exclusive.
They are not mutually exclusive, but it is a bias that exists. When I was getting ready for the podcast today, I went back to look, for example, to see if P.D. James or Ruth Rendell had ever been shortlisted for a Booker. P.D. James one time was on a short list, the two greatest crime writers of the 80s and 90s, and not a single nod.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also the snobbery, I think, of the British literary establishment.
True. And John Banville, when he started writing thrillers, used an assumed name.
But now he's reverted back to John Banville, which is kind of great,
It
right?
is kind of great. But, the whole idea that it was somehow lesser than, so he wasn't going to publish them under his name.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a few more books on this list, some that surprised us, our favorites, and then maybe ones that we feel should have made it but didn't quite make the cut. We'll be right back. Tina and Sarah, we have talked about some of the heavy hitters on this list. People have shown up multiple times, talked about a few of the patterns maybe that we've seen plot-wise. But was there a book that surprised you?
There was. I was surprised and delighted to see My Sister, the Serial Killer by Orient Braithwaite.
It came in so high.
It came in so high. I think it's at number 6,
It
right?
is, yeah.
So it's something that I didn't know could be written. It's a funny serial killer novel. And it's about this nurse in Nigeria whose beautiful little sister has this very disconcerting habit of killing her boyfriends. And so, like, she's always got to clean up after her. And then her sister decides she wants to go out with a doctor. And our narrator has a crush on this doctor. And all of a sudden...
Oh, no.
Oh no. But the funny things are, like, after a boyfriend gets offed in some horrible way, like, she'll have to stop her sister from going on social media and being all bubbly and happy. And I'm really not conveying this, but it is funny.
Sarah?
It's such a great book, but I was sort of surprised and very pleasantly to see we need to talk about Kevin on this list. It's thriller-ish because it is about a boy who shoots up his school, I guess. That's a thriller.
And you know that from the first page.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm.
There is like a shocking and upsetting plot twist at the end, actually. But mostly it's a real examination of evil, of nature versus nurture, of parenting and children and our love and our hate for our children. And it's much more of a sort of deep dive into important issues than it is a fun book to read. Like, I found it really, really hard going and deeply upsetting. But I loved it, and I read it with my book club, and I think a lot of book clubs read it. A lot of women and mothers in book clubs who really used it as a way to get into big discussions about raising our kids.
I don't know if I could read this. I have a feeling
tough.
it's gonna wreck me in some way.
It's wrecked me, and I read it, whenever it came out. So it's been on many years of wreckage.
Right. And I'm with you. The twist at the end
it just kills you.
It kills you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tina, I'm curious. I feel like over the past decade, let's say, we've seen so many wonderful thrillers in translation. This is a thing that has become more of a thing. And those books are not necessarily represented on this list because I feel like maybe we're still in the early to mid stages of this. But it feels like if you are a thriller fan, the way in which books in translation have sort of penetrated the space makes it that much more fun.
I agree. I do think that Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was like what sort of kicked this off, certainly for the Scandinavian mysteries and thrillers, which, I don't know if you've read many of those, but boy, those are dark.
Yeah.
Swedes must be, seriously.
And those, I loved The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. A lot of the Scandinavian ones fit in the category of stuff that I am uncomfortable because they seem to compete in how much they can mutilate and torture their victims. And it's like, here's a tableau with 8 victims who all have the heads of deer and they're displayed. It's just gross. But they're also really good.
Right.
And they're very, very popular. Not, there's different ones from different Scandinavian countries, so they're not all in this sort of Henning Mankell mold. But that is a big trend in recent years.
That's a big trend, right.
Yeah.
And they're now like small presses that just publish like procedurals and translation. So Czech, German, Polish, countries in South America. It's actually a great way to learn something about a country is to read a police procedural set there.
That's whenever you travel, you should take a thriller set in that country.
Well, just the way some of the TV shows. So The Killing, that TV show was first set in a Scandinavian country, right? And then it was remade into an American thing, and it was very different. Mm-hmm. And also that great French TV show, The Bridge, is that what it is? About French detective, really interesting. So it does work both ways, I think.
Yeah. I remember when I was in London a few years ago for the London Book Fair, in all of the front windows was this book, Butter, by
yes,
Asako Yuzuki, which was a Japanese thriller. It was huge there. It hadn't come to the States yet. I think it was published later that year. It does feel like Japanese thrillers as well starting to...
They are having a moment.
Yeah.
And we reviewed that. It was such a good book.
Yeah.
And it had a sort of funny tone to it, just the way My Sister, the Serial Killer did too. And the butter in it is about a lady who likes to eat a lot. And that's a sort of sub-theme in this great feminist book, actually.
Sarah, you talked about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Scandinavian thrillers have been a thing for a while. That book, The Millennium Trilogy by Stieg Larsson, is something that many people know about. I'm curious if there's a book on this list that you are hoping that our readers are going to turn to because they saw it in this project.
Well, I'm sure a lot of readers have been here already, but I'm going to plug the great book Case Histories by Kate Atkinson. It's not a conventional mystery at all. It stars this fantastic, adorable private investigator, Jackson Brodie, who just wants to be a good person and is continually getting beaten up and slapped around. And he's trying to investigate 2 or 3 hopeless, cold cases and make the people who are suffering so badly happy. But it's not really about that. It's more about love and loss and trying to go through life with the knowledge that you're so filled with grief from someone who died a long time ago. And it's a really beautiful book. And she's really funny. So like all of her books, it's about much more than it looks like. And I hope it's a gateway to not only the other books in that same sort of loosely connected series with Jackson Brodie, but she's written some beautiful novels, especially Life After Life, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And if people read this and think maybe that would be good, I'd be so happy.
And she also has a new book coming out this fall.
Oh, right. I'm so happy.
Our Noble Selves, I believe it's called.
I don't think it's a Jackson Brodie, though.
No, I think she might be done with Jackson, although every now and then she brings him back.
Tina, I think you have already mentioned the book that you hope people discover, but tell us again about it.
It's Defending Jacob by William Landay, an evil child book, as we discussed. You see the testimony from 2 trials taking place, and so you learn about this in bits and pieces, but the agonizing heart of this book is a father who believes his son is innocent, believes with all his heart that
of a murder of a classmate.
Of a murder of a classmate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's the father grappling with this. And it's incredibly moving. It's also got the 2 most gut-wrenching twists I have ever read in a thriller. Not 1, but 2.
And one right at the end.
One right at the end and one not long before that.
And it's like you think you're done. It's like the same with Sharp Objects. Like, oh, phew, we figured it out. Okay, we can go home now. And then it's like, wham. Right. They got me again. They like stabbed me in the stomach.
Well, that sounds like another book I'm going to take a pass on, Tina. I am not going to read that one. I have to ask, what is the best book for each of you that did not make this list?
Oh, for me, it's Expats by Chris Pavone. Have you read this?
Loved Expats.
I love it.
It's
about, it's hard to say what it's about, a former CIA agent / assassin who's now a stay-at-home mom in Europe.
As one is.
As one is. Like, thinks her husband is up to no good. And she's right.
And he's again like a real, a literary novelist who happens to write in this genre. So thank goodness for him.
It's a financial thriller of all things. Like, that's what it is.
Okay, that's a good subgenre.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with a thriller in translation, The Anomaly by the French writer Hervé Le Tellier, which I reviewed a few years ago when it came out because I loved it so much, and it won the Prix Goncourt, France's top literary prize, showing that it is a work of literature. And it's nominally science fiction. It's about a plane of people from France that lands in the United States, and there's something really wrong and weird. And you don't know what it is for a long time. But the science fiction itself is quite light, and it's really about people being faced with an extraordinary situation and how they deal with it. And it's about life and death and mortality and what we do with our short time left. But the sciencey part is it alludes to a famous sort of current popular theory of existence that I had never heard about, but will force me to go and do some reading on it, which great thrillers always do. You want to learn more. And it's just a spectacular book, and I will repeat it. It's called The Anomaly by Hervé Le Tellier.
Sarah...
What?
I also want to read this book.
Yay! Okay.
You are loading up my TBR pile here.
Get going, Gilbert. What are you waiting for?
I don't know what I'm waiting for. I need
but,
someone to put me...
some of them you can read or listen to on audiobooks as you do your 10,000 steps a day.
That's right.
I'm not kidding. It's a great way to read a thriller. It also makes you exercise more. So that some of these books, I have had situations recently where I'll be listening to one and I just miss all my stops. And I
That's when you know it's working.
I end up in Sheep's Head Bay rather than, and that's a really great way to take in a book like this, I think, because you're so excited to get to the next section.
Absolutely.
You just can't wait.
Tina, Sarah, this has been a wonderful conversation. Hopefully everyone is aware that the New York Times Book Review can do it all. We can tell you about a delicately wrought book about an Australian woman who moves to a nunnery where she experiences a flood of mice, as we did in our top 10 books of 2025. And we can tell you about great serial killer novels, as we have done here. We do it all. My two thriller experts here. Tina Jordan, thank you for joining the Book Review podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
Sarah Lyle, you were wonderful.
This is so fun. And Tina and I are going to now team up and be a police force partners, don't you think?
That's right.
We'll be in the squad car together.
I hate to tell you, but I was actually these would be the two best serial killer duos right here, because they know how to do everything and all the poisons and all the plots and all the way to avoid detection.
How to cover our tracks.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
I think I have the plot for my first thriller. I'm going to start writing tonight. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You can find the full list of the 50 best thrillers of the 21st century, along with ballots from many of the authors who voted on this list over at nytimes.com. And you can also vote for your own best thrillers of the 21st century. Please do so. I'm Gilbert Cruz. See you next time. The Book Review is produced by Sarah Diamond, Amy Peril, and Patricia Sulbaran. It's edited by Tracy Mumford and mixed this week by Daniel Ramirez. Original music by Dan Powell and Alicia Baitu. Special thanks to Dahlia Haddad. We want to hear what you think about the show, so send us an email at thebookreview@nytimes.com. I'm Gilbert Cruz. Thanks for listening.